Ahoy, hoy! It's Trevor again. You've made it. Oh my gosh, how many weeks in a row is this? Is six? Is it seven? I can't even really remember. Great to have you here. This is again a countdown to Artemis II, and the show must continue because there was a delay, which I will talk about. So let's get ripe and raw right into it. So my name's Trevor. I'm sure the people who are watching, you've seen this before, so you're probably tired of this. You could probably recite this yourself, but if you haven't watched this, my name is Trevor. What is this series? What is this all about? Artemis II. You probably maybe have started to hear about it. We are going back to the moon. Humans are going to return to the moon. And so I've been doing a weekly live stream since January 5th, a New Year's resolution that goes until the moon, we arrive there. Weekly live stream every Monday, 8 p.m. until the rocket actually launches, which hopefully that'll happen soon. So each show, 15 minutes, two topics each, 15 minutes long. Do a Q&A. So at the very end, if you have questions about this mission, I'm here. I'll answer them for you. I got nothing better to do. This is focusing on the mission, of course, but trying to do it from sort of a Canadian perspective. So that's that. Who am I? Who am I? Who am I? Who are you? Who am I? I'm Trevor. I run a little company here called Plateau Astro in Montreal. I do school presentations. I have a mobile planetarium like this. It blows up only with air, not really blow up. Inside, we can see all the stars and the constellations and do a tour of the planets and see the night sky. If you want to hire me, hey, I'm available. Give me some money and I'll come to your school. Last thing, I used to work at the Canadian Space Agency. They are not affiliated with this, but I used to work with one of the people who is going to the moon, Jeremy Hansen. So that's just an intro. Let's get into an update about what's going to happen, and then I'll get into the two topics. So this time last week, I was here, and they were doing what we call the wet dress rehearsal. And this is basically filling up the Artemis II rocket with fuel and seeing if everything goes right. And it was all going pretty good. And then as they were starting to count down, they were within 10 minutes, there's a hydrogen leak. And we kind of suspected this might happen. This happened before with Artemis I, which I can talk about in a second here. But we kind of knew that something like this might happen. So what they've had to do is sort of push the launch forward, meaning, or backward. I wouldn't know how you would do that temporally, but they're going to move they're going to move the launch to early March. So we're not going to do it in February. We could have been in space. We could have been on the way to the moon right now, but because of this test, we had to postpone it. So early March is the new dates. Here is a calendar showing all the dates here. So the earliest date, little asterisk, I'll talk about this a little bit later, is March 6th, which is a Friday, which is, I guess, good if you want to show the family a cool rocket launch. So March, that's a timeline we're looking at. This is kind of a good thing, though, because if you remember, there was a lot of stuff happening the last couple of days. So, for example, Friday, February 6th and Sunday, February 8th, what was happening on Friday night, last Friday night? The Olympics. So trying to compete with the opening ceremonies of the opening Olympics. That sentence makes no sense. The opening ceremonies of the Olympics with the Artemis II launch, maybe not ideal. Last night, when they could have launched, Super Bowl. Kind of a boring Super Bowl. I'm not even really into football, but it's kind of boring. Almost no touchdowns for most of the game. So that didn't happen. And so now we're looking at March. If we did it on February 6th, February 8th, people would complain, oh, you're doing it wrong. You're trying to compete with big sports things. Well, the eggheads down in marketing, they got their stuff together right, because if it's going to launch March 6th, on March 3rd in Montreal, starting at 4:30 in the morning, 4:50 in the morning, and everywhere else in most of the world, there's going to be a total lunar eclipse. So this is what the moon is going to look like just a few days before they go off to the moon, if it does happen in March. So they got their marketing stuff together. So this is what the moon could look like if you live anywhere within this red area. If you're in Africa or in Europe, you're going to miss it. But if you're anywhere here in the red part, you will be able to see the moon look somewhat like this. So, hey, marketing team, crack job. Last thing, the free Artemis II flight map that I showed last week. So this is basically a 2-scale model of the Earth and the moon, printed out, and it shows the entire timeline of the mission. And some people, they downloaded it and they printed it off, and they sent me photos, and it's really, really cool. This first one from my old coworker, Tyler, his daughter, Liz, has it, I guess, bedroom, playroom on their wall. Good job. And they have some space stuff going on in their room too. There's a few extra habitable planets and a rocket going on there. Solar system. I like it. My parents, just making sure their printer still works. So that was a mission success. And it looks like they have like a shrine of me in their kitchen. You can see a newspaper clipping of me in there. Very flattering to have parents who do that. And then my friend Dave, he printed one off too, and he's got a measuring tape there. And yes, it's 33 inches long. Very good. If you want it to, it's free. Go to plateauastro.com/Artemis. I have a bunch of stuff there, but at the bottom, you'll see, and you can print it off. Okay, we're 7 minutes into this. Let's get into the show. Tonight's topics. We're going to talk about Apollo versus Artemis, comparing how much was Artemis delayed, or Apollo delayed versus Artemis, whole bunch of different little things. And the second topic is going to be about, and this might sound kind of simple, don't I just look up? More complicated. How to see the moon during the Artemis II mission. I'm going to show you some practical advice. It's going to be a little bit trickier than you might think. All right, let's do it. First topic, Apollo versus Artemis. Let's start with Artemis 1. Artemis 1, this mission launched a few years ago. It launched on November 16th, 2022. I was at the space agency at that time, so we had to do an event in the middle of the evening. And so it launched and it went up and the mission was a success. But it was November 16th, 2022. Artemis 2 is going to launch, hopefully, as early as March 2026. And if you sort of run the numbers in your head there a little bit, the time between Artemis 1 and Artemis 2 is 3 years and 4 months. 3 years and 4 months. Quite a while. Let's compare this to Apollo. All right, I'm not going to do them all. You'll get the gist pretty quick. Apollo 8, December 21, 1968. How long was it until Apollo 9, March 3rd, 1969? That is only 2.5 months difference. Again, 3 years and 4 months, and these missions, 2.5 months. What's that? 10 weeks? Apollo 9 to Apollo 10, what's the difference? 2.5 months again. Apollo 10 to Apollo 11. Apollo 11 is where they landed on the moon. How much time in between these two missions? 2 months. Just 8 weeks from each other. Less than 8 weeks, I think, actually, there. I'm not going to go through them all. I think you're getting the idea here. Apollo 12, 4 months after Apollo 11. Apollo 13, 5 months after that. Apollo 13, we sort of had to be, okay, wait, let's figure out our problems here. It was only 9 months afterwards. There was not a years-long gap between those two missions, even after Apollo 13. You're getting the idea here. 6 months. I think another 9 months. Yep. And the last one is 8 months. You can see how quick these missions were all happening within each other. And just to reiterate that, with Artemis 1, Artemis 2, 40 months. 40 months between the two missions. And to reiterate this one more time, let's compare the first mission that landed on the moon to the last mission that landed on the moon, Apollo 11 and Apollo 17. How much time in between those two? About 3 years and 4 months. So in the entire time that between Artemis 1 and Artemis 2, the entire crewed missions to the moon, landing on the moon, actually happened. Why? Holy crap. Why is there this huge delay between the two missions for Artemis 2? I'm going to tell you the reasons why. Sometimes they're not pretty reasons, but they are reasons. Let's talk about fuel. I was talking before about what we fuel the Artemis 2 rocket with, and we use liquid hydrogen to fuel this thing. Inside that big orange thing, that's where we put liquid hydrogen and oxygen up at the top. And liquid hydrogen is very, very leaky. It leaks so easily, just microscopic little holes. It'll find a way out, and you have to start over. Not start over, but there's leaks and you'll lose pressure and stuff. What did Apollo use? Did they use hydrogen? Apollo used kerosene. Kerosene, like in your old coal oil lamps. If my dad is watching, and I know he is, coal oil lamps, they use kerosene, and this is not leaky at all. It's just very, very reliable thing. Another rocket that uses this is SpaceX's Falcon 9. This launches honestly twice a week, sometimes more than that. It uses it. It's super reliable. They don't use hydrogen, but the rocket we're using now for Artemis 2 uses hydrogen and it leaks a lot. So that's an issue. That is an issue. You're getting these delays between these missions. The second thing is just a general regard for safety. When we went to the moon, we were in craft that was like, it was dangerous, but they weren't intentionally putting people in things that are going to blow up, but it didn't have the same margin of safety. They were sort of purpose built for do one thing for a limited number of days, very, 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 very fragile. And the margins of error were very, very, very thin. Okay. These people who went on these were complete daredevils, and we have a sort of a different outlook on safety now than we did back in the 60s and 70s. During the 80s, obviously we had the Challenger accident, and then in 2003 we had the Columbia accident. Okay, even since then, the safety standards have gone way up. They have numbers of this. I forget exactly what it is, but it's like you're allowed a 1 in 180 chance of something going wrong. There are very, very, very large margins of safety now in the programs we have. So much so that when we did Artemis 1, we found that when we brought it back home, when we looked at the heat shield, we had to delay about 1.5 years, I think maybe a little bit more than that, to analyze to make sure that it was going to be all okay. And so even just figuring out if the heat shield is going to be okay, they had to look at safety a little bit differently. Third thing, budget, money. Artemis has a budget. I'm pulling these numbers, sort of just quick research, about $90 billion for the entire program. What did Apollo have? Inflation adjusted, about $250 billion, $250 billion. Okay, so Apollo was just getting a lot more money back then, 2 to 3 times more money. Apollo just had a lot more cash to flow around. The other thing is juggling. During the 60s and 70s, the only missions that NASA was really doing with crew were just Apollo. Well, now NASA and other space agencies, we have to juggle this thing, the International Space Station, and this thing takes time. It takes money. It's about $3 or $4 billion US to keep this thing operational. So just money can't go to Artemis all the time like we could do with Apollo. The other thing is a deadline. This guy, who is no longer with us, JFK, said, we want to go to the moon and we want to do it. And he gave a certain date. We want to do it before this decade. He says the word decade very strangely. Decade. Before the end of this decade, we want to land people on the moon. And that was like, I wasn't there at the time. My parents, if you're in the chat, you could probably help me out. If you ask somebody on the street, say in 1968, and you said, what's the day that we have until this project should be due, you could probably talk to somebody and say, yeah, it's before the 1970s start. What about Artemis? Do we have that same sort of deadline? The Artemis program was announced in March 2019. And to me, it doesn't really feel like it has a real deadline. Like there's no end of this decade. They said, we want to put somebody around the moon by 2022 or maybe 2023. We want to get boots on the ground by 2024. It's still nebulous when we're even going to get boots on the ground. Doesn't really feel like we have like a real deadline, to be honest. The only real thing that's really kicking us right now is China. This is really for the US starting to get them, okay, maybe we should actually start taking this seriously here. And they're starting to make their lunar lander, the crewed lunar lander, will go down to the surface. So this is actually starting to get them kicking in high gear a little bit more. So those are some of the reasons why it's taking so long between Artemis 1 and Artemis 2. It's a complex vehicle. There is assembly line things. It's a very, very different program than Apollo. I couldn't get into everything, but fuel, safety standards, money, cash, juggling other missions, and no real deadline. And so there's just a lot of things why the Artemis program is just taking so long between each mission. I haven't gone through them all, but hopefully that gives you a little sense of an idea of why this is taking so freaking long. Well, that's happy. That's a fun one, Trev. Okay, so that's Apollo versus Artemis. Hopefully maybe we can think of some better things to look at. So I'm getting some people in the chat there. That's good. I'm gonna address some of the things you brought up there. Let's go on to maybe a little bit of a happier note. Maybe. Second topic. We're right on time. Good. Seeing the moon. Okay. Now you might think this is a pretty simple one. It's like, what do you mean? It's like they launch and then I just go outside at night and I look up, right? Can I just go outside and look up? It's not how it works. Not how it works. And that's a function of the moon phase. I'm going to talk a little bit about that. But first, before I do that, we're going to look at the Apollo 11 moon landing. Okay. So obviously, this happened July 20th, 1969. And this is what the moon looked like on that night. Okay. You can kind of see as a sort of a crescent shape there. And what I'm going to do, I'm actually going to turn my slides off here in a second. I'm going to use an app. This is called Stellarium. I'm going to show you what the sky looked like during that night here in Montreal. I'm not going to do this in other places. I can't do it everywhere. It looked different in some places, but here's what it looked like in Montreal. So I'm going to close this and I'm going to share a different screen here and I'll just test. That's showing up. Yep, it looks like it should be good there. Okay, and you should see my mouse. Yep, and I see it there too. So what I've done here is I have displayed the St. Joseph Oratory. So if you've ever visited here, you should try to go during the nighttime at sunset. It's a really good sunset spot because you're looking out to the west here. All right, you can see the steps. You can all sit on the steps right there. And what I'm going to do, we see the sun right here, and I have it set on today's date. What I'm going to do, I'm going to change the date to July 20th, 1969. And let's see what happens. So let's change the year to 1969, the month to July, and we are going to go to July 20th. And they landed on the moon sometime in the afternoon on East Coast time, but they did their first steps on the moon at about 11:45 p.m. I think that's the time. And so we can see the moon, so the sun right there, and we see the moon right here. And I'm just going to start moving time forwards. And I just have to fix one thing here with the location. All right, that should be it. There we go. Okay, so this is 5:50 p.m. I'm going to move time forwards. You're going to see the sun start to go down like this. And again, they started walking on the moon at about 11:45 p.m. So it's 8:30, it's 9 p.m., it is 10 p.m., and at about 10:45 p.m., this is the time that Neil Armstrong first stepped on the moon. So if you were in Montreal, if you were at the St. Joseph's Oratory on this day, sitting on those steps, you could actually look outside and you could look just low on the horizon and you would be able to see the crescent moon just above the horizon. And you can see it's starting to turn like an orange color there. I'll move time forwards. And you'd barely just be able to see it. It worked out just, I wasn't there, obviously. I wasn't born. But this is what it would have looked like the day that Neil Armstrong stepped on the moon, the moment he did it. And for me, I would love to have some sort of memorable moment like this, something for Artemis II, if I could, recreate this in some sort of way for myself. So I'm just going to share my screen one more time. So what I would like to do is to have this same sort of moment for Artemis II. Okay. Now I'm just going to show you what the moon looked like for the Apollo missions. Okay. So this is what what the moon looked like the day we launched to the moon. And they landed a few days later, but this is what it looked like when they launched. You can see a sort of a general pattern here, right? They're all sort of a crescent shape. And I brought this up in the second episode, or maybe it's the third episode I did, that during the Apollo missions, when they had to land on the moon, they had to leave so that when they arrived at the moon was lit up where they were going to land. And they had to land on the near side of the moon so that they could talk to Earth. So every time they went to the moon, to land during the Apollo missions, the moon looked kind of like this, a little crescent. Well, for Artemis II, it's not going to look like this. It's going to look something kind of like this. Okay? And this is the reason it is kind of difficult to see the moon with your eyes during the mission. When it's like this, when it's a crescent, a waxing crescent, It's easy to see it shortly after sunset. It's actually very simple to do. You go outside and you look at it. That's about it. When it's like this means that it's about a few days after the full moon. And when the moon is like this, a few days after the full moon, it rises later at night. So for Artemis II, it's going to be a full moon or later, and that's going to make it difficult to see the moon. So here's a few things I wanted to see during the Artemis II mission. Can I see the moon shortly after launch? Can I see it with my own eyes? Can I see the moon during the mission when they're on their way to the moon? Will I be able to see it? How will I see it? Okay. And a third thing is, can I see the moon when I hear the crew come around from the far side of the moon? We're going to lose contact with them for about 45 minutes. I want to look at the moon as we reacquire signal with them. I think that'd be really, really cool to see. Can we do that? Now, I'm going to pretend and hope that's going to happen on Friday, March 6th. And the launch window we have for that day is 8:30 to 10:30 p.m. And I'm going to show it here in Montreal. Okay, I can't do it for everywhere, so you'd have to adjust to your local place. And here again, here's the calendar for it for the other days. So let's say it goes off Friday, February 6th. And I'm going to go back to Stellarium here. Okay, so what will it look like? So let's go back and share my screen. There we go. Now again, this is the 1969, July 20th, 1969. And I'm going to change the date to 2026. And it is going to be March 6th. All right. And I'll put it to daytime like this. And the last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make this very Montreal here, and we're going to go to the Olympic Stadium. Okay, so I use these in my planetarium shows, by the way. So I usually start the show at the Montreal the stadium like this. Okay, so it is March 6th, Friday, March 6th. It's 5:18 p.m. Okay, it's a few hours before the launch. So I'm going to move time forwards here, and I'll put the time up just right there. Now, the launch window opens at 8:30 p.m. ET. Where is the moon right now? So here is, it's not in the sky yet. I'll show you where it is. It is below the horizon. So you see this line right here. This is the horizon, and the moon is below it. Okay, and I'm going to move time forwards, and you can see the sky is getting darker. I'll put the landscape back in a second here. And the moon is starting to rise. It's not above the horizon yet. Okay, it's 6:30 p.m. It'll be dark by that time. 7 p.m. still hasn't risen yet. Coming up on 8 p.m., 30 minutes before launch. Okay, it is now 8:30 p.m. They could be launching now, but they have 2 hours to get everything ready. It's 9 p.m. in Montreal, 9:15, and about 9:30 p.m. At about 9:30 p.m. in Montreal, actually it's 10 p.m., sorry, the moon will start to rise. Okay, so if they launch at say 10:15 p.m. within that launch window, we could see the full-ish, it's not full, it's a few days after full, we could see it rise over the horizon. Now, even if it launches at 8:30 p.m., starts going off, I would watch it for a little while, but then I would go outside and I would take my friends out. It'll be a Friday night. Hopefully I've maybe rented a space and we can see it. Take them outside. We can actually look at the moon. To me, that would be really cool, is to be able to look at the moon. They'd be orbiting Earth, but just showing them the moon. I think that would be really, really cool. So we can do that. That is doable from Montreal. Other areas, depending on where you are around Earth, that could be a little bit harder or not, but in Montreal, we're good. Now, can we see the moon during the mission? Now, in the first couple of hours, of course, the moon will still be moving like this. All right. If it launches on a Friday, the next day is a Saturday. Okay. Now, if you're a teacher, you probably want to show your students this during the daytime. So Saturday, let's see what it'll look like. Okay. It's 2:30. I'll just move time a bit more faster here. It's 3 a.m. Yeah, you're probably not going to take your kids out to show them the moon at that time. Okay. But at about 6 a.m. or so, it'll start getting lighter out, and the moon will still be visible in the sky. Now it's 6 a.m. What kid is going to want to get up at 6 a.m. on a Saturday morning to do it? I wouldn't do that. Mom and Dad, you're listening. You can get in the chat and you can tell the crowd that. That's not going to happen. The phase of the moon that it's in, we're a few days after the full moon. This means that the next day, not the Saturday, but the Sunday, the moon would be right about here in the sky at about 7 a.m. Okay? Sunday. What about Monday? School day. It would be right about here. And this gives us a little bit more time to try and see the moon. Now, it is early, okay? It's still 7:30 in the morning, so school probably doesn't start then, okay? 8 a.m., okay, maybe kids have arrived, but it's quite low in the sky. Let's go to Tuesday. The moon is now here, okay? Each day, the moon moves a little bit more back as it goes around the earth, okay? From Tuesday, you could probably take your kids out if you're at school, if you have students, take them out and you could show them the moon. They would be on their way to the moon by this time. And by this time, it's about 4 days, 3.5 days after launch. They would not have arrived at the moon yet, but they would be able to see it there, okay? The day after, you could probably see it again. If you have clear skies, you could be able to see it in the morning. I think this is doable. This is a doable thing to see. Obviously, it'd be better if it was nighttime, being able to show kids the moon through the telescope and stuff like that. But during school time, they would be able to see it. So the second thing, yeah, we'd be able to see the moon. Just not ideal, not at nighttime, but in the morning time. The third thing, though, that I want to do is at about day 5 and an hour, so 5 days and 1 hour into the mission, I think that is about the time that they're going to go around the far side of the moon, and we're going to lose contact with them. And to me, I really want to listen to that moment. I want to, lose signal of that 45 minutes. I want to stress out. And then as they come back around, we'll regain contact with them. I really want to be looking at the moon during that moment. Can we do that here in Montreal? If they launch February 6th at 8:30 p.m., that means on February 11th at 10 p.m. Let's just put the numbers in for that, for Montreal. Let's see, would we be able to do this? March, March 11th at 10 p.m. So 22, let's just say it's 10:30. Would we be able to see the moon? We would not. We would not. The moon would be below the horizon, and it would take quite a few hours for it to rise above the horizon. Let's just find out when that would be. So 10:30, 11:30, 12, wait, 10:30. Okay. 10:30 now. Okay. 10:30, 11:30, 12:30, 1:30, 2:30. It's like 4:30 in the morning before it rises. So it's quite a few hours before we don't actually see the moon like this. So we would be able to see the moon shortly after launch. We'd be able to see it in the mornings after it launches. But that cool moment where we'd be able to see it, the moon, as they come around the far side, wouldn't happen in Montreal. You would have to be, I think, in about Europe, and you'd have a good view of it then to be able to see it. So let me just take my slides back here. So that was Stellarium. See the moon. Can we see it shortly after launch? Yes, we can. Can we see it during the mission? Yes, we can, but in the morning time, which is kind of good for teachers and students. But can we see the moon here in Montreal as we hear and get reacquisition of signal from the crew? No, we can't. So that's kind of a bummer, but 2 out of 3 ain't bad. So now there are rumors that possibly after the wet dress rehearsal that they're going to try next week or so, that perhaps on Tuesday, March 3rd, they might actually try a launch. And I'm not going to simulate this in Stellarium here, but what that would mean is they would launch just around sunset time, which is really cool because all the launches we've had so far, or the launch times we've had, they've all been sort of at nighttime, which is okay, but I would really like to see it during the daytime. I think all of us kind of would. So in Montreal, it would launch, probably about 6 p.m. or so. And that might change things a little bit. That might give us a little bit of a better chance. I haven't done all the work on that, but we would still have to wait until the morning to be able to see it and all, but that would change things a little bit. But I'll let you know in case that happens. What would also happen on that March 3rd, if you remember, in Montreal, starting at 4:50 a.m., we would have the total lunar eclipse, okay? So imagine that. Early in the morning, you see a total lunar eclipse, and then, say, 12 hours later, you get to see a rocket launch of people going back to the moon. That would be really cool. That'd be really cool. Again, this is just rumors, but hopefully I can give you a little bit more information as that changes. So ultimately, I want to be able to do this because I think it'd be really cool for people to actually look at the moon as this historic stuff is actually happening. I think Apollo really had that. I wasn't there, obviously, but being able to look at the moon while people were walking on it, I think that's a very transformative mentally sort of moment, but trying to push that in for Artemis II. So that is seeing the moon. That's the second topic. So now it's time for Trevor to have a drink of water. But if you have questions, you can go to the chat and you can write your questions in there. I saw there was a few comments in there. If you have any questions, let me know. While that's going on, if you want to support me, you can support me. One-time donation. You can buy me a coffee, buymeacoffee.com/PlateauAstro. If you want to support me on a monthly, and I've had a few new members now, Patreon.com/PlateauAstro. Probably the biggest thing, though, if you have kids or you're a teacher or you're a principal or you own a school board, you can bring me to your school and I can give your students a presentation in my planetarium. The software you just saw is the same software I use in the planetarium. A little bit more organized during my shows. That one, a little bit off the cuff, but hopefully you get the idea. PlateauAstro.com/planetarium. If you're on YouTube, just subscribe. Do it. And social media, there it is. This is probably how many of you found me. And a newsletter. I've been annoying and sending out a newsletter every Sunday night, reminding you this. I should probably stop doing that because I bet I'm probably losing subscribers, but if that's your thing. And then also I made a page, PlateauAstro.com/Artemis, and I've just been putting recent videos and things like the flight map there. So yeah, if you need activities to do with your kids, that's a good one too. And if you'd rather not hear me ramble for 30 minutes on a thing, I made like a 9-minute video on Artemis II. You can watch that on my channel. Last thing you do to support, tell people about the mission. Just go out, tell your bar friends, tell your coworkers, tell your family. Do it. All right, Q&A. And I'm going to start with one of my own because I saw this online yesterday and I thought it was a really good idea. So I recreated it and took a spin on it. I imagine I'm going to get this question quite a bit as I see friends, because after I've come back from the rollout and stuff. How big is the Artemis II rocket? So I was there. Geez, you can see the same sweater I'm wearing. It's actually me. Where's my lanyard? I don't know where my lanyard is. How big is this rocket? And even me looking at it there, it's sort of devious how what is the size of this thing? So yesterday during the Super Bowl, I saw somebody tweet this out, and I figured, oh, I'll do that myself too. How big is the SLS rocket? Here is how big it actually is. It is like almost the entire length of an American football field. Okay, 322 feet long, 107 yards, which is how long is a football field? 120 yards, including the end zones. This thing is massive. And I feel like I'm re-looking at my photos being like, was I looking at a football field? A thing as high as a football field? Very devious how tall this thing actually is. So that's how big this is. Football field. And then somebody messaged me, hey, can you do something more Canadian and have it not be in yards? I'm like, yeah, I can do that. How big is it compared to a hockey rink? This is surprising. That is how big a hockey rink is. This one blew my mind of like that. It's like almost double the length. Yeah, maybe 1.7 times the length of a hockey rink. That seems crazy to me. That's possible. That's insane. So yeah, that gives some more. I'm going to try to do a few more of these. I don't have any left on me, but like, how big is it compared to a curling rink? How about a basketball court? How about a baseball field? I'll try to do a few more of these and make a post sometime this week. That sort of helped me reframe how big this thing is. And I stood in front of it. It's still hard to comprehend. All right. As somebody said, or as I said, Artemis II is now brought forward to Tuesday, March 3rd at 5:30 p.m. and no longer on Friday, March 6th. Where did you find that information? I've only been hearing rumors. So 5:30 p.m. Earlier than I thought, actually. That would be really cool to see. It would be light time there in Florida. It would be light time here in light, as in there would be light out, pre-sunset. If you have a source for that, that would be really quite cool to see. Maybe I'll simulate that in a second here. And then my father here, Mr. Kennedy's speech to Congress was on May 25th, 1961. So he actually did two speeches, one at a university at a football field, fittingly enough. And then, yes, one to Congress as well. Let me dive into the March 3rd one here. I've got a few minutes here. If you have any other questions, throw them in there, or else I'm just going to ramble for the next 8 minutes because this goes to 8:45. Artemis II is now brought forward to Tuesday, March 3rd at 5:30 p.m. and no longer on Friday, March 6th. If that is the case, let me bring up Stellarium and let's simulate this. So Stellarium, and I will just get it a little bit more lighter here. Okay, and here is the stadium, the Olympic Stadium. So if it's on March 5th at 5:30 p.m. and we're in the same time zone, that would be 17:30 right there. Okay. The moon would, I presume, be right around here. And let's just find out. Nope. Okay, I'm off. It would be rising. Right, because it's 2 days after the full moon. Right. Oh, March 3rd. What am I doing? Oh, sorry, March 3rd. There we go. Okay. March 3rd, 5:30 p.m. Yeah, the moon would be right there. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, so it would be rising like that. Okay. Yeah, makes sense. All right. So you could see this perhaps during the launch here in Montreal and presumably down in Florida as well. So during the day, or sorry, during the night, this is, you can tell I'm really mixing my words here. You'd be able to see it. How cool would this be? It'd be full moon, and you'd see it all night long, and not at an unreasonable time. It's only 10 p.m. We're getting into 12 p.m. here. You'd be able to see it in the sky. That'd be really cool. I should show the kids if it does happen on March 3rd. Now, it's going to set as the sun is rising the next day. Okay, so it's going to set in the west as the sun is rising at about 6:30. Yeah, so it's getting lighter out. Okay, so you might even be able to see it in the morning. Now, obviously the hill there by the Olympic Stadium is blocking it, but you'll be able to see it setting in the west the morning after it launches. That'd actually be very cool. Now, this would be about 6 in the morning. Okay. But that could be doable. That would be very doable for Montreal. And if you're more west, if you're like in Edmonton, Alberta over there, you would have a bit more time. I think it would be it'd be later. No, it'd be about 6 a.m. there too. Okay, so if it launches, say 5:30 p.m. on March 3rd, that means on the 5th, sorry, the 8th. This is really racking my brain. At 5:30 p.m., it would be below the horizon. Yeah. So it would be on basically the opposite end of the sky as they're going around the far side of the moon. Okay. All right. So I think we got to throw out the idea that I'm going to be able to see it while they're coming around the other side. I think that's definitely not going to happen for us here. But thanks for that. Hopefully that does happen. If you do have a source for that, that would be great to see. But yeah, all right. No other questions in here, so that's fine. I don't mind leaving early. My gosh, that's fine with me. Thank you all so much. Let me just turn this off. Get my presenter. There we go. Okay. There's that. Next week, I have no idea what the topics are going to be. I kind of feel it out through the week as new info comes about. So maybe I shouldn't plan that out in advance. But let's get my fiance in here. You better hope it's not March 3rd at 6 p.m. because your lady has a radio show at that time. Right. Yes, it better not happen then. Yeah, absolutely. What was I thinking? That's all my, I was just thinking, I was just about to say that actually. Yeah, let's have it not on March 3rd. Though I think that might actually be a good topic. I don't know. I'll shut my mouth now. Let's not do this publicly on the internet. And where can we send suggestions for future topics? This is actually a really great question. Yeah, a few different ways. You can email me, and I'll put my email address on here. Give me 1 second. info@plateauastro.com. Like that. Or you can go to my my website, and that is plateauastro.com/contact. And you can just send me a question there anytime that you'd like. Right there. And yeah, send it days in advance, the morning of, the hour before. Perhaps I could loosey-goose an answer for you. And yeah. All right. So yeah, I'll do that on YouTube and also the Facebook event. And hopefully the Facebook event actually works, because my streaming software hasn't been working on Facebook for the last 3 weeks. So we shall see. Thanks again so much for coming, and talk to you soon. I guess we got like another month to do this. So yeah. All right. Have a great night, guys. See you soon.